So hello everyone. On this video, I will be discussing the graphical user interface in Visual Basic.net. So currently, I'm using Visual Studio 2017, but you can also use different Visual Studio versions. So I'm just using today is the Visual Studio 2017. Okay? So to create a project, the first thing that we need to do is to go to the file and then new and then project. Okay, so maybe let's name this Windows app uh, module. Okay, and then we will be selecting the Windows form application. So this is usually used whenever you want to create a graphical user interface in Visual Basic.net. Okay, so let me just hit OK. Okay, so basically, it loads now the GUI, and we will be discussing the combo box, the labels, the checkbox, and even the radio button. So first thing that we are going to do is to go to the toolbox. So you can see here that there are already toolbox in Visual Studio that will help you design for our Visual Basic program. So first is let's search for the label. Okay, so you can see here that there is a label. So let's just replace the name of the label. And you can see it here that there is also properties tab. So properties tabs is where you can edit the name or the properties of a certain component. So these are the component within the toolbox. Okay, so let's just name this as, let's say, name. Okay, so by that, you can already replace or change the name. Okay, the next thing that we are going to do, we want to ask the user uh, an input. So by that, we could use a text box. So text box are used for the inputs from the user. So when you receive an input from the text box, it is automatically a string. Okay, so let's just replace the data binding. Okay, so this text box indicating here is the variable that holds this text box. For example, you want to get the value from the text box, so this is the name of the variable, and let's just replace it by name. Okay, so the next one that we are going to do is let's output what is on the text box, and to do that, let's just add a button. Okay, let's just replace the name of this button and let's say button submit. Okay, and let's replace the name, which you can see here in the properties tab, and then text. Just look for it. Okay. Okay, so let's say submit. Let's just put it on the center. So, however, what if we want to create a function that will output a message box within the text box? So we need to configure this button to do it. So to do that, we can simply go to the events and then click this property. But also we can double click this for simpler method. So by double clicking this one, okay, so you can see here that it will automatically create a function that will be used whenever that is clicked. And okay, for example, let's try to output what is on the text box. And to do that, we could simply say message box. And then the first parameter is used for the string that we want to get. So let's say, what's the name? It's text box. And then here it is, the text box name. Okay, and then let's just get the text from it by clicking that and then text. Okay, so let's just try to hit run and see if the output is the same. Okay, so while waiting for it to load. So this is how the GUI is simply done in Visual Basic. So let's say Rion. So let's just click submit. Okay, so you can see here that you can already see the difference, or you can already see the output of the string that you have added or inputted. So that's basically how you use message box and the buttons and text edits. Okay, so what if we want to add a cancel button or OK or cancel button within our text box? So to do that, let's just add a comma and then message box style. Okay, and then let's click the dot operator, and then let's look for our button that we want. And since we want the OK and cancel, let's just hit this enter. And let's also add a information and an icon for it, for we will be able to see that there is an information. So to do that, let's just hit or and then message box style and then that information. Okay, so we should see an information and an OK cancel button on our application. So clicking submit. Okay, so you can see here there's an OK, there's a cancel, and there's an information. But what if there's a Windows app module? So for example, we want to replace this name. So to do that, we could simply add the third parameter. So the third parameter, we can name this as output message. Output, let's say, you could say output. Okay, so we should see that our text box is replaced to output. Okay, so you can see here that this is already an output name, an information, an OK, and cancel button. So that's the basics of how you use message box together with without the text and also the button. Okay. So now, we're going to do is to apply the radio button. So radio buttons are usually used whenever we only want to select one information. For example, are you a male or are you a female or LGBTQ+. So you usually use a radio button to encapsulate these things. So to do that, we could simply use, first is we use a group box so that we will be able to group these radio buttons. Okay, so radio buttons, let me just drag it here. Okay, we could rename this, or even we could change the name of this group box. Let's say, let's remove the name first. So we don't need to use the name. And let's add a label. Okay, so here you can see label and then let's type sex. Okay, so then we add a radio button. So radio button is here. So let's type radio button and let's just drag and drop it here. Okay, so we are now able to create our radio buttons within the group box. Oops, I've checked. Okay, let me just remove it by clicking Ctrl Z. Okay, so that's basically what happens when you accidentally click the uh, information. So let me just retype this one. So group box. Okay. Okay, there seems to be a problem with my mouse. Let's go replace it. Okay, then group box. Okay, let's not rename it anymore. So let's say radio button. Okay, so let's drag another radio button. Let's replace the name of this radio button to, let's say, male. Okay, the other one is female. And let's also replace the variable name so that we will not be able to get confused. So let's say male, and the other one here is female. Okay, so let's just click the submit button again. Okay. So to remove this function without removing the whole data, we could simply use this click and then go to action button and then remove this one. So that's basically how you do it. Okay, so it automatically removes. So the next thing that we are going to do is to have a if statement. So if statement, if male is selected, this is the action that we need to do. So to do that, let's say if, okay, if radio button male is, there is a function which is called is check or check, okay, so that it will evaluate if it's true. So let's say, let's put the output here. So output, so dim output as string, let's say. So we will concatenate the result of our radio button. So first is output is equal to plus is equals to text box name. Oops, text. Okay. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is to add the string, the text box value, and then the sex of the person. So let's just say if radio button is checked, then let's increase the number output plus, let's add a space here, and then output, let's say male. Else, the uh, if the women is elected, we could also do this. So else if radio button female, then output plus equal, let's say is check, output plus equal to female. Okay, so to do this, okay, so let's say Ria, let's say female. So when we click submit, you can see here, okay, so it didn't work. So let me just correct this one. Let's replace this by the output. Okay, so let me hit run again. So male, let's say Cosa. So you can see here that Cosa and male was outputted. So that's basically how we use the radio buttons and then the buttons and also the text area. So the next thing that we are going to discuss is how we are going to use the checkbox. So checkbox is basically just like uh, a radio button. So we could also use checked or not checked. But to simulate the result, let's add another label that will output if the checkbox is hit. So to do that, you can simply add it here. Okay, so let me just replace the name of this label. Let's say label output. Okay, so the name here is, let's not add any text. Okay, so let me just drag this on the left side. Let's add a checkbox. Okay, let's rename this text box as a student. Okay, and let me replace this as student. Okay, so let's also add if a student is 14 years old. So let's age. Okay, so let's replace the name. I am 14 years old. Okay, so we can simply have a checkbox there. So what if we want to do is to simulate whenever there is a student being checked, it will output what is being checked here above on the label we put. So to simply do that, we could click this one and then go to the action or the event properties. Then we can simply double click this check change, okay, or here. It will automatically create a function or event whenever there are hits. So let's also do this at the same time. Okay. check change. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to declare a variable that can be used globally. So to do that, you could say private global, private, and then let's say, what can we output? Let's say, or maybe we shouldn't do it anymore. Like it's, or maybe let's say label name as string. Oops, forget that dim. Okay, let's see. Let's try this one. Okay, so next one is, for example, whenever checkbox student is checked, we want to output the age of the student. So to do that, we could simply do this. So label name plus equals to uh, student check. Okay, oops. Okay, so let's also, and let's set the value of the label. So label and then label output dot text and then label name. Okay, we could also copy this one. 14 years old, check. 14 years old, check. Okay, so gets the sets or text associated. Okay, so what's happening here is there seems to be an error. Okay, maybe a programming error. Okay, there seems to be a mistake. What could it be? Okay, gets or sets the associated with this overload resolution field object not accessible text accept this number of arguments. What's happening? Let's say student. Okay, so there seems to be a problem. Let me just check it here. Okay, so there seems to be a mistake. So we should equal it in this manner. Okay, so it shouldn't be a parenthesis. So let's say label name. Okay, so maybe the error is not corrected. Let's try to hit run. So we should see whenever there's a checkbox or whenever we hit the checkbox, we could simply see student, okay, and 14-year-old check. Okay, so that's basically how we do checkboxes. And however, what if we also want to know if the student is checked. So basically, you can also use the method that check method. For example, you can also use uh, else if else if checkbox age that is checked. Okay, then we could simply output plus is equal checkbox. Okay, let me just hit the run again. Let's say, exactly, I'm 14 years old. So Kosato checkbox. So that's basically how we use checkboxes. So the difference between both of these properties or components, a checkbox can be checked multiple. So group box can only be checked at one at a time. So that's the difference between the both of them. Okay, so let me just close this one and then let's go back to our form. Let me just move these things. And for the last one is we want to use our combo box. Combo box are usually used whenever we are listing multiple items. For example, fruits. So let's just add a label here. Let me add just. Okay, let's rename this label as fruits. So Let me browse to the properties. Let's say fruits. Okay. So let us add a value for this text box or this combo box. So we can add value from this. So list of items, then click this button here. And then we could add, let's say, manga, orange, fruits can we have rambutan. Okay. So let me just run this code and you will see that there are combo box values already whenever we hit this one. Okay, so let me just click this one, orange, and then manga, and then rambutan. But for example, we can edit this one. And since combo box are usually used and it's not editable, so what are the things that we could do to disable this one? So we could disable this one by creating and going to the properties tab, and let's look for the drop down style. Okay, so we could simply do the drop-down list. So by clicking so, you will not be able to edit your combo box anymore. And whatever's on the data on the combo box will always be the same. Okay, so to add this one, so orange, manga, and then rambutan. However, what we want to do is to get the values from the combo box. And how are we going to do that? We could simply do that by creating or using the function. And let's go back to submit button. Okay. So, and then let's also add the value of the combo box. And to do that, let's say output plus equals to combo box 1, and then okay, so get current text or get item. Okay, so maybe there's a mistake here. Let me just browse it again. Mhm. No, let's use the term or the function selected item. Okay, so from here, we could convert this as to string as well in order for us to get the text. Okay, so we could simply add a space. Okay, so let me just run this again. So that's how basically you use combo box to selected item using the combo box dot selected item dot to string. And why is it necessary to convert it to string? Because it's from a different data type and you can instantiate string from a different data type. You can also instantiate or you can just instantiate a data from the same data type. Okay, from string to another string. Okay, so next here is you can say orange and then fruits. So we should see an output that is fruits and then orange. So submitting this one. Okay, so you can see that we already selected the orange on the combo box. You can also add here mail. Okay, so fruits, male, and then orange. A very weird combination. I don't know what it means, but whatever. So that's basically how we do the graphical user interface in Visual Basic.net. So I hope you guys understand some of these things and you will be able to apply it on your software. So thank you and see you guys on our next video.